Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode. Today, as I promised you, I'll be speaking on a topic that is very important and very relevant to the time that we're in today. I'll be discussing AMD versus NVIDIA. And today, we'll dive in depth about the two companies from a fundamental perspective, because this is how I do investment and this is how I do my strategy on eToro. So I am a value investor. I try to find a good quality company at a good pricing, and as well I focus as well on quality companies, so quality investor and value investor. And this is why I want to analyze both companies and share with you how I came to the decision that I sold AMD at a certain price. How did I do my analysis? What did I look at? Will I later regret the decision or not? We'll come together in full transparency to the conclusion later on, but this is my take on it, and this is how I look at things, and I wanted to share it transparently with you. And I'm very happy as well to share with you today. This is from a terminal that I built. It took me 2 months of work between many coding tools to be able to have it and present it to you, so information becomes easier to you to understand. I hope you like it. So before, I used to do all of this on Excel and write down and try to compare and so on. Now this brings the comparison much easier in a way that you will love for sure. And please stay with me in the coming slides where I show you my terminal and how I look at AMD as a company and its fundamentals, and as well NVIDIA. So here we are with the terminal. I'm very happy to share it with you. You're the first audience to see it live after 2 months of working, and I put on it the name of my company that I established for financial education. And today I'm very happy to take you through it, explain how I look at the fundamentals of companies like NVIDIA and AMD, and how I came to my decision regarding the investment and why I sold AMD. All of this will be today, and it will be a fluid, casual conversation where you can understand my chain of thoughts and what I look to when I analyze a certain stock. So today, starting with NVIDIA, today NVIDIA is priced at 226, and it have gone in the past week huge growth. So 5 days it was plus 6.5%, in a 1 day it's 2.7%, and last month it's up 20%. It had huge growth in the pricing, and we can see the huge jumps, especially after the war between the US and Iran and what the conflict that was happening in the region. This affected the stock price, but we had a very good rally in the past month. And when we look at NVIDIA today, the market cap is $5.5 trillion. And overall, the company has a PE of 45. Now, this is an overview on any company that I look at, but when I look at the company, I move to in-depth. So I move to the fundamentals, and this is how I look at the company. So first of all, I look at the sector and the company. How is the company doing versus the sector? Is the company PE way overvalued versus the sector PE, to understand is it a standalone bull run or the whole sector is running, and so on. So we saw that NVIDIA was running around 20% in the past months. The sector as well is running at the same rate. NVIDIA is at 45 PE, price to earnings ratio. The sector is at 53, so NVIDIA is in a moderate valuation. And then when we look at the DCF, we'll find that the DCF, two models of calculation, again, many ways to calculate DCF. In general, I use the CFA model, and as well backed by my CISI studies that I did. You look at an average of almost $140. If you look at this average and you look at the pricing of NVIDIA, you find that it's trading above the DCF value, which is a good pricing for a company that is growing hugely, because discounted cash flow looks as well at past performance. So it doesn't look at the future growth. By the time the company growth catches up, it makes sense. So this is one factor that we have to look at. The price to earning versus the growth adjusted is 0.29. This is very attractive. So usually when it's below 1, it means the company is very attractive in investment. It can mean as well the company is struggling, but here we will see more about the numbers and how I look at it, how I value the company. So one main important factor that I look at is the cash that the company has. So the company, the 5-year trend is growth, and the company currently has almost $100 billion in cash, free cash to use it. The company margins are very healthy. So if you look at the company margin of 71.1% gross margin, operating margin of 60%, net margin of 55.6%, amazing performance for a company with the size of NVIDIA and the business size that NVIDIA has. NVIDIA has a downside that its beta is high. So when you have it, you will have a huge fluctuation in your portfolio, especially if it's weighted. So the more you have stocks in NVIDIA and the more weight for NVIDIA, the more that you will fluctuate upwards and downwards. So for the cup years, sometimes maybe I will fluctuate more than the S&P and will drop to the negative side more than the S&P. And on the other side, I always as well beat the S&P, and the 5-year track record speaks for itself at 18% average rate of annual return. So this is a bit of how I look at NVIDIA. Z score is basically a solvency score. So it looks at, can this company go bankrupt or not? So this is one thing to look at. So always I look at the company, how it's doing, how its financial trends. The company is moderate tax efficient, so it's 15% effective. There are many companies that are at above 60 and 70 and 85% like Apple. So this is one aspect where NVIDIA can improve when it comes to tax efficiency. But on all the other aspects, when we look at the return on equity, we split it to understand why it's happening. Because maybe a company is having high return on equity, but because it's heavily leveraged company. So the leverage is affecting the business. But overall, the company is conservatively leveraged. We're looking at 1.3, the size of the company of leverage, which is very healthy. We have many companies that are at 3, 4, 5x the company, and this is why sometimes this affects the equation. So this is why we break it down. Now, when we look at the total shareholder buybacks, so we'll find that the buyback is at 0.73%, which is moderate buyback. When you look at a company like Apple, that is the state of the art when it comes to financial management, one of the best-in-class companies, they are at 2%. The buyback of NVIDIA is at 0.73, which is, again, amazing ratios, healthy ratio for the company that is developing and has massively outperformed in the past period. Now, we look at the fundamentals. So currently we said the PE is at 50 up there. We said to be exactly 45.9, let's say 46. When we look at the results that is expected to be announced in March 2027, you will find that the PE will fall drastically to 27.4, which is by far like many slow growing industries, and the average of the S&P, which is around 25. So this is one thing that to look at. And with the company massive growth that we are seeing, the PE will fall drastically. So if you look at it with the pricing perspective, the company is very strong, have solid profitability, solid cash to fuel future growth, and invest in R&D, and as well invest in purchasing other assets and companies that can benefit the company in the growth. And if you buy the company today, even if you think it's valuable, it's super expensive in your point of view and overvaluated at this PE, it's a relevance. We will look at AMD, but if you look at it in 5 years, if you look at 2030, it will never stay at 18.5 and growth will continue. I personally believe NVIDIA will reach $1 trillion. So when you look at it and you look at this aspect and you look at the company, you can say that the minimum, the company will double into its value. So we're looking at $10 trillion valuation. This is if it will be fair value at around 30 PE. If it goes to the same valuation, we're looking at $15 trillion valuation. And guys, don't look at it at NVIDIA today as NVIDIA, a $5 trillion that is more expensive than Apple and more expensive than Google and so on. Look at it with the perspective of it's the foundation of all AI now, and it's the main benefiting company from AI with such revenues, massive revenues, that is expected as well to scale. And this is what we have on our hands now, without any innovation that will come to life soon, without space exploration, without going into cars and automatic driving cars and all of this. So this is how I look at the value of the company. So it has solid cash, solid earnings, solid plans. I read the news and what the announcements by the CFO and CEO, and go to the articles. And again, I look at what analysts say as well. Usually analysts are optimistic, so I downplay analysts a little bit to look at value. But again, analysts tell you that the median of the analysts is 275. So we have 20% upside to the pricing of NVIDIA. There is no sell. So when you look at the ratings, there are 30 ratings and all of them are 100% bullish. 28 on buy and 2 on strong buy. And you can see the names that are putting these grades for the stock. Also, the next call is 20 May, and it's a big one. NVIDIA has strongly beaten all of the targets and the estimated earning per share for the past 7 calls. So we're expecting another beat for May results. So keep your eyes on 20 May. I think the stock will fly after the announcement. I'm expecting a very solid results, and the CEO seems very confident. And this video comes in time where the CEO of NVIDIA is currently in China discussing as well expanding the business to China. And I'm sure these discussions will lead to a fruitful results for the business, for the benefit of the US and NVIDIA. When you look as well, I added some other markers that I look at to understand the short-term impact. So how the insiders are trading. So you see some insiders are selling more. So there are 203 million shares sold versus 130 million shares bought by the insiders. You can look at as well the senates. So 63 of the senates bought in the past period versus 37 sell. And this is the example of the latest dates. And as well the House 79 bought versus 21 sell. So this gives you an indication. And as well, again, more news articles. This is how I look at the company. Now, we take this and we do the same example on a company like AMD. So we look at the AMD now and look at the numbers of AMD. So now for the numbers of AMD, we'll find that the company is at 732 market cap billion. So it's almost 1/10 of the size of NVIDIA. Or more, let's say 1/8 of the size of NVIDIA. Forward PE is at 61, and the current PE is at 146. It's a staggering number, a crazy number. But anyway, we'll look at it more later on into the fundamentals. So we move to the fundamentals, and we look at the statistics of AMD. So first of all, AMD currently stock PE is at 146.8 versus the sector at 53. Staggering numbers. For me, this is why I decided to sell it. I sold it at almost $300. DCF of the stock, again, it looks at backward numbers, so we need to factor the new numbers, but still, if we look at it and you will understand more about the business of AMD. So when you look at the price per earnings adjusted for growth, it's 12.53, very, very expensive valuation. You're paying a premium for the future growth. Even the forward PE at the current numbers and estimates of the analyst, it is at 61.2. It's extremely still high. So the valuation is massive. And then when we look at the numbers of operations, it is extremely squeezed. So they have $6 billion or $7 billion, way less than NVIDIA. They have 11% operating margin. Guys, over there, remember, we had 60% operating margin. Net margin is 13.3%. For me, for a tech company that is working in AI and has only 13.3% net margin after everything, I have a question mark into how the company will manage in the future, the business. When we look at the overall performance of the return on the equity, you look at the tax, so low tax drag, so it's effective management of tax, minimal interest drag. They have the biggest issue is their thin operating margin. It's very obvious from here. As I said, the asset turnover they have low asset productivity, so it's a capital intensive business. It's a big problem for them because as well they're being squeezed by the competition big time, and they try to win by the price. And this is the price that you pay when you try to play on the pricing. So overall, they don't have high leverage, so it's good. So they're as healthy as NVIDIA when it comes to this part. Stock buyback is again very weak, 0.1. The company is still growing. Now we look to the estimated earnings. When you look at it versus the size of NVIDIA and the estimated growth of NVIDIA, the company, you will start seeing very good numbers in 2030, but it's very unhealthy for 2027. And this assumes that the company will have an amazing performance, no mistakes, no issues like the Strait of Hormuz and the closure that happens, no price hikes, and so on. And how is this relevant? So today, everything is affected by the pricing. So when you look, for example, at the current PPI, the measurement that came today, and it's at 1.5%. So this is the producer pricing. If it goes to CPI and it's high as well, and inflation goes higher, it will affect the business. And then with their operating margin that is very thin, and they don't have a strong leverage to raise their pricing because they have a very strong competition from NVIDIA that has almost 80% of the market share of the business. So this gave me a question mark on the estimates, because all of these are estimates by the analyst of the future growth of the business. It puts a question mark because there is no room for mistakes. 1 year of mistake, 1 quarter of mistake, and this price will move down 20 to 30%. And this is the massive risk that this stock carries because of the very high valuation and the high premium that you're paying today for the stock. So these are the numbers of NVIDIA and why I made my analysis on it, why I decided to sell the stock, and how I do in general briefly the valuation of the company. When you look at the stock as well from the analyst perspective, they haven't updated the targets because they updated twice. It was previously 275 and then went to 350 and then now 423, and the stock keeps going above even the target of the consensus of everyone. So now we have 12 hold, 18 bias. So there are question marks. So someone like JP Morgan is now neutral about the stock. Citigroup is now neutral about the stock. We have to watch very closely to the results in August. So last August, they barely made it to the earnings per share. So if they miss or they faced any challenge, it will be a big one, especially that this time the earning per share estimate is 1.59. And they haven't got these numbers before. Here was the closest number was 1.53 in Feb. So we'll see how the performance will happen, and also look at the numbers of the actual revenue. The growth per quarter is a bit modest versus NVIDIA, which is something as well that I look at. So I'll continue here and then I'll take you to the actual revenue per quarter growth. Now, when you look at internal, again, it's more selling, 350 million shares sold versus 324 bought. In the Senate, it's less popular, so 10 bought, 2 sold. In the House, 63 bought, 37 sold. Now, let's look at the quarterly earnings and see the difference in the values and the difference of growth that we can see. So AMD is doing 7, 9, 10 billion of growth. If you look at NVIDIA growth rate, and we look at NVIDIA numbers, you will see massive jumps. So we're jumping from 30, 35, 40, 44, 46, 57, 68. So this tells you how healthy is the company and what is the real direction of the company. And it gives you more confidence onto the numbers. It gives you more confidence even onto the projected future numbers that we saw in the fundamentals here. When we look at numbers like 584, I think we'll beat these numbers. The CEO came in the earning call in March and he said, I'm expected 1 trillion by 2028. And he's looking at the results of 2027 and 2028 together. So when you look at the results together, and this is from a certain sector of the business, not the full business. So these even doesn't add up to his estimations. So if you factor this and you look at NVIDIA numbers and you look at a CEO that's saying by 2028 we're expecting a call number by $1 trillion from one sector of the business, which is the biggest sector. But again, if this gets you 1 trillion, these numbers are shy estimations. This is a guy who was visionary, who took the company there today, and this is why I made my decision that I will move most of my investments into NVIDIA, and this is when it calls a quality investment. It's a quality company, and as well growth investment because the company has a massive growth now in the short term with the analyst estimates, and as well on the long term when you look at the numbers. This is it. I was happy to present to you my dashboard and how I look at the data and numbers of any company. Please let me know your feedback, share your comments. I want to know how do you look at it as well.